The Top Floor Please podcast, where women in leadership rise together. I'm your host, Melissa McCormick, executive coach and founder of the Grace and Salt Leadership Academy. This is your space to find clarity, grow in confidence, and lead with bold authenticity. Whether you're navigating the boardroom, building your team, or stepping into new territory, you're not alone. Let's talk real challenges, real growth, and real leadership because the top floor isn't just a place, it's a mindset. Alrighty then, let's get started.
Hello, everyone. Hey, before we jump in, I want to let you know that today's episode kicks off a special four-part series that I'm calling the Next Level series. So, if you ever wondered why maybe you're working harder than ever, but you still haven't moved to that next level, maybe you've found yourself asking, so like, what am I missing? This series is for you. So over the next four episodes, it's kind of like my podcast, right? You see this throughout the entire recording so far, but now I'm kind of putting it all together. We're going to pull back that curtain on leadership behaviors that separate high performers from the women who would become the obvious choice for the next level, right? That's what I want to explain to you. So if my goal isn't to inspire you. My goal is to help you understand how executive leaders think, what they're really looking for, whatever those practical shifts are that can change that trajectory of your career. That's what we're going to be focusing on. So here's my question for you. If you've ever felt stuck, maybe overlooked, or if you've ever wondered, what am I going to do differently today? Because what I've been doing for the last 5, 10, 15 years hasn't worked. So what am I going to do differently today? Right? And if that's your question, because you've been doing all the things, but you haven't broken through to the next level, this is the right place. And I hope you enjoy me for the entire series. I want to ask you this question. Have you ever heard somebody say this? I really don't know what we'd do without you, right? Feels good, doesn't it? Feels good. It's the one of the greatest compliments that a leader can receive or an employee can receive, at least in my mind, because I loved hearing that, right? You're dependable. You're reliable. You're the person that everyone turns to when something goes wrong. The one who knows how everything works, that solves the problem, the one who keeps things moving. And honestly, we kind of like it a bit, right? You take pride in that. I know I did. I mean, most women, we kind of like being in charge. We like being that go-to person. And I honestly believed that becoming that indispensable person was exactly what would get me promoted. Like I really believed that somebody was going to tap me on the shoulder and say, Melissa, you are an amazing employee. And because of that, we are going to promote you. Yeah. What I didn't know at the time, and I want to share this secret with you, is that the very thing that was making me valuable was actually holding me back, right? So if you're difficult to replace, sometimes you're difficult to promote. And so today we're going to talk about one of the biggest career traps that high performing women fall into. And it's called becoming indispensable. And if you're wondering why you've worked so hard, but you still aren't moving to that next level to get a seat at the table, then this conversation may just change the way you see your career forever. Welcome to the Top Floor Please podcast. This is the podcast for high performing women who are ready to stop staying stuck and become the obvious choice for the next level. I'm Melissa McCormick, your host. For years, I was the go-to doer, right? I was that person that everyone depended on to solve their problems, to get things done, to answer their questions. And what I didn't realize was that doing more wasn't preparing me for the next level. It was keeping me from it. My breakthrough came when I stopped trying to do everything myself and I started leading through other people. I stopped being the go-to doer and I became the go-to leader. So if you've ever felt stuck, overlooked, or wondered what it's going to take to get to that next level, then you are in the right place. If the business can't function without you, it makes it difficult for the business to move you. All right? All right. So let's dive in. Early in our careers, right? Where we're rewarded for being dependable. We show up, we work hard, we say yes, we solve problems. Maybe you live closer to the to the company so that when there's a snowstorm and somebody needs something, you're able to go get it. You become the person people can count on. And that, quite frankly, is exactly what organizations want. And if you're like me, you probably became pretty good at it, right? Need someone to stay late? Hey, I'll do it. Need someone to take on another project? Okay, I'll figure it out. Need someone to rescue a struggling team? All right, I'm in. And so eventually people stop asking, who can do this? And they say, give it to Melissa. Have you experienced that? Are you with me on this one, right? It feels validating and quite frankly, it feels good. It feels good. People trust you. Leaders rely on you. You become known as the person who gets things done. You're the go-to person. And that's exactly where the trap begins. Because over time, your identity becomes tied to being the one who always steps in. You become the fixer, the rescuer, the safety net. And those qualities, don't get me wrong, those qualities make you so valuable, but they don't necessarily make you promotable. And that's what we're here to talk about. This is one of the hardest lessons that I learned, and that's being valuable and being promotable are not the same thing. I want you to think about this. You've got a valuable employee solves problems. A promotable leader builds people who solve problems. See the difference? How about this one? A valuable employee knows all the answers. A promotable leader develops others who can find the answers. A valuable employee becomes essential to the work. A promotable leader becomes essential to the organization's future. Hear the difference, right? One creates dependency and the other creates capacity. Executive teams aren't simply looking for the person who can carry the business. They're looking for the person who can grow the business. And those are very, very different leadership behaviors. There was a point in my career when I looked around and realized something it was rather uncomfortable, right? Everyone was coming to me, my customers, my employees, my peers, projects, decisions, questions, people who worked for me, people who didn't work for me. And at first I thought, yeah, I'm doing it. I'm in charge. Everybody's coming to me. I'm feeling good. I'm doing a great job. And I really was. But then I started asking this different question. So why is everyone coming to me? Like, was it because I was the only one capable? Or was it because I unintentionally trained people to depend on me? Yeah. Yeah. And that realization was humbling. I wasn't solving problems. I was becoming the bottleneck. And imagine this. Is this you? Am I speaking to you? Every decision flowed through me. Does every decision flow through you? Every issue landed on my desk and I handled it. Now, I may have handled it through other people, like I told them what to do, but I told them what to do. Why did it even need to come to my desk? Every urgent situation seemed to require my involvement. What did I just describe you and your life? Like, are you resonating with this? What I was actually doing was I was conditioning my team and those around me, even those not on my team. I was conditioning them to come to me. I was creating dependency, right? Organizations, they do not grow because one person becomes indispensable. And actually, I had a boss, president of the company originally when I first started there, who told me one time, Les, nobody is indispensable. ooh, he put me in my place. And he was right. He was right to say it. It was obviously it happened probably 28, 30 years ago. And I've never forgotten it. He was absolutely right. There is no one that's indispensable, but I thought that I was, right? And when I became that person, because I was the nerve center of everything that was going on, but I wasn't that valuable to the organization as I thought I was. Because the organization, they needed me, they needed growth, or they needed to grow because leaders build other capable leaders, and I didn't know that. And that was, once I learned that, that was the beginning of my shift from the go-to doer to the go-to leader. See the difference? So one of the biggest misconceptions about promotions is that executives are always asking, who's doing the best job? They don't ask that. There's, spoiler alert, they don't ask that. They ask bigger questions. Like, if we promote her, who fills her current role? What kind of gap does she leave? Can her team function without her? Has she developed people who are ready to step up? Has she created systems? Or, better yet, is she the system? I want you to think about that last question. Are you running a system, or are you the system? Super important decision, right? If every important decision, every customer issue, every employee question, every major project depends on you, then the organization has a risk problem, not a succession plan. Think about that. And if you're the executive in the organization and you have a go to doer, think about your risk when that person leaves, right? And I know we're not talking about that today, but it's important from both sides of that equation. Executives notice that, right? They're going to be thinking about that. They deeply appreciate everything that you're doing. Please don't misunderstand. They really do. But quietly, they're wondering, how could we possibly move her when so much depends on her staying exactly where she is? Ironic, right? The harder you've worked to become indispensable and valuable is the harder you've made it for the organization to imagine you someplace else. So here, I want you to be thinking about this. So if you got a pen and paper, write it down. But how do you know if you've fallen into this trap? Okay, so I'm going to give you 5 signs. As I read these, right, I don't want you to think about somebody else. I want you to think about yourself and really do some self-assessment, which is kind of what my podcast does, right? We're always thinking about how we can do better. So here's sign number 1. Every decision comes back to you. Your team's capable, but they still come to you for approval on nearly everything. Not because they have to, but they've learned that they should. Okay, at first it feels like this is respect, right? But over time it becomes dependence. So I want you to ask yourself this question. Am I empowering my team to make decisions, or have I unintentionally trained them to wait for me? Think about that. Yeah, think about that. Sign number 2. You can't take a vacation without chaos. Oh, how many times have you dreaded going on vacation? Like, you're super excited to go on vacation, but then you're like, ugh, is it even worth it? Like, should I even go? I can't even relax. Because if I'm gone for a week, then there's 2 days while I'm gone that I'm catching up on emails. And so then the following, like, then by Wednesday, I'm decent. And then Thursday, Friday, I've relaxed. And then I have to come back in on Monday. And reentry. Oh, let's just be honest about reentry after vacation. Is that you? Is that how it works for you? It's how it works for me. Used to work for me. Yeah. And then everybody, they'll handle things. You're telling people what to do Mondays and Tuesday and Wednesday, but then by Thursday and Friday, they're just leaving your email inbox because, oh, she's going to be back on Monday. And then you come back to a mountain of emails and issues waiting until you got back. Now, I want you to think about the risk of that is to the organization. An entire week you're gone, and now there's things that could have been getting done but didn't because they were waiting for you. That's not good. That slows the business down, right? And many leaders that like that feeling of being the one responsible for all the answers and all the things that go to doer, right? Sometimes they wear that as a badge of honor. Well, I guess they really need me. Maybe. Or maybe they haven't been given the confidence, the authority, or the opportunity to lead in your absence. Think about how, if you allowed them to do that, giving them the tools and giving them the information while I'm gone, these are the things you need to be pay attention to. And if this happens, then do this. And only coming to you when and absolutely necessary. Think about their own confidence level and what that would do for them as leaders. One of the greatest compliments that an executive can receive is not, we couldn't function without you. It's everything went great while you were away. It doesn't mean that you're not valuable. It means you're a leader. You are leading through others. All right, sign number 3. You solve problems faster than you develop people. So there's I have a lesson in my book on this topic as well. And I called it in my book Grace and Salt, I called it in the moment decision making because right, this one just hits really close to home for me because when someone would bring in a problem that they'd have, I felt like I had to answer it right away and I had to answer it. I needed to learn to train myself to say, what do you think we should do? Right? Because it was just easier. That's why they came to me. It was just easier. And then I'd complain about it to myself afterwards, like, why in the world are they always coming to me for these things? Right? Instead of teaching them to solve it, which took longer, which was okay. I did what most busy leaders do, which you might do, and I solved it myself. It felt like it was the thing to do. But when I did that, I robbed that person of growth. And I also guaranteed that they were going to come back to me the next time. Because leadership isn't measured by how quickly you solve today's problem, it's measured by how many people can solve tomorrow's problem without you. Think about that. All right, so we're on sign number 3. So I just finished sign number 3. Sign number 4 is that your calendar is full of other people's priorities. Take a look at your calendar this week. How much of it reflects your highest value work? And how much reflects reacting to everyone else's needs? Like, do you have time blocked out on your calendar that is just for you and getting your goals done so that people, and I mean time blocking it, because otherwise other people will get on your calendar for their agenda and not necessarily does it align with what you wanted to get done that particular day or week, right? Strategic leaders protect time to think, protect time to coach, to plan, to build. Go to doers, they fill every open space with activity. But go to leaders intentionally create space for leadership. All right, finally, sign number 5, write this down. You're proud of being needed. Yeah, it feels good. Now, this one is kind of subtle, but I want you to be thinking about it. For years, being needed meant you were valuable. People called because they trusted you, me. They relied on me. They appreciated me. But eventually, I had to ask myself this question: was I building a stronger organization or was I building one that depended on me? Two different outcomes. Was I building a stronger organization? If I got hit by a bus, what would happen? or was I building one that depended on me? Right? So the shift that changed everything is this, right? How do you become promotable instead of simply indispensable? How do you do that? So, and we do that by start asking different questions. Instead of asking how can I get this done, like you've got your to-do list and you've written everything down, or maybe use something electronic. Instead of asking how can I get this done when your boss brings it to you, you ask who can own this. Instead of how do I solve this problem, you ask who needs to learn how to solve this problem, right? Who needs in their own future at the organization, would this problem help build their portfolio and build them up, right? Be strategic about who you're giving things to. Instead of saying, why won't they step up? Man, ask, have I actually given them the opportunity to step up? Have I actually talked to them about what their future looks like and where I see them and where I would like them to be? Have I actually done that? And the final question that I really, really want you to write down, this is the most important one of all. If I were promoted tomorrow, what would break? Think about that. If I were promoted tomorrow, what would break? I want you to make a list. Write it all down. Would customers be lost? Would projects slow down? Would they stop? Would your team struggle? Decisions, would they come to a halt? Would people be like, oh my gosh? And then I want you to ask the follow up question. What can I begin transferring today so that 6 months from now, the answer is different? That's executive thinking. You're no longer preparing for today's job, you're preparing for tomorrow's. So here's something that I want you to remember. Every promotion I've received, it required me to let go of something I became really good at. Not only did it require me to let go of it, it required me to not require the person I gave it to do it in the same way I did it. Am I speaking to my people here? Am I speaking to my people? Because if you're like me, you're like, oh goodness, I'm giving this to, my heir apparent, the next person in line, or the person that I'm trying to, train or develop in that way. But am I delegating it to them and allowing them the space to make it their own, as long as we have the same outcome, but they can do it their way, or do they have to do it my way? And it also it might be something that you really like. That's the other problem. As you get promoted, we have to let go of those things. Don't stay in that same lane that you're comfortable in, your comfort zone, right? You'll see that a lot with sales, with I shouldn't say sales. You see that a lot with people that are promoted into the next level, and then they still take care of maybe there's a favorite distributor or a favorite customer, and the customer calls them and they feel, oh, but we have such a good relationship. So you handle whatever it was yourself, instead of saying, Joan, she handles that today. So I'm going to transfer. I've got the information. You don't have to explain it again, but I'm going to give it to Joan, and Joan's going to get back to you on that. Do you do that? Or do you handle it and maybe you tell Joan you handled it, or maybe you don't? Yeah. Yeah. It's hard because you know what? Competence, excuse me, it feels safe. But if you're holding on to that work that made you successful yesterday, then think about this. You leave no room for leadership required for tomorrow. Does that make sense? If you're holding on to the work that made you successful yesterday because it feels comfortable and competent, and this other stuff is scary and I don't really know how to do it, but then you're not leaving any room for leadership required for tomorrow. Because what you say yes to means you're saying no to something else. And executive leaders, they aren't promoted because they're the best individual contributors. They're promoted because they multiply leadership, they create clarity, they develop people, they build systems, they leave behind stronger teams than the ones they inherited. That's the work of a go to leader. And that's exactly why this matters. The organization isn't asking, can she do the work? They're asking, can she build an organization that no longer depends on her doing the work? And that's the question executive leaders answer every day. So here are three key takeaways from today's discussion. The one is being indispensable may make you valuable, but it doesn't automatically make you promotable. Executive leaders, they create capacity, not dependency. Number two, the more your team depends on you for every decision, right, that conditioning, the harder it becomes for others to imagine you in a larger role. It's honestly all about visualization. You want to build leaders who can lead without you so that the executive above you can imagine, oh, okay, we can pick her up and put her here because she's already built this here and she's already figured out her successor. Like, we're going to make it easy for your boss to promote you. The third key takeaway is that shift from the go to doer to the go to leader. That begins when you stop measuring your success by how much you accomplish. And I want you to start measuring it by how much your team accomplishes because of your leadership. Okay, so next week, we're going to answer one of the biggest questions I hear from high performing women, and that is, what am I missing? You've worked hard, you've delivered results, you've become indispensable. So why does someone else get the opportunity? I'm going to introduce you to what I call the invisible scorecard. Okay, it's the leadership behaviors that executives are quietly evaluating long before a promotion is ever announced. And trust me, once you understand that scorecard, you're never going to look at leadership the same way again. So before I wrap up today, I want you to leave you with one question. If you were promoted tomorrow, would your team celebrate your growth, or would they struggle because everything depends on you? It's a question to create growth, not guilt. That next level of leadership isn't about becoming more indispensable. It's about becoming more intentional. It's about building people who can think, who can lead, and who can make decisions without you. And just remember, your breakthrough begins the moment you stop being the go-to doer and become the go-to leader. All right, ladies, until next time, keep leading forward.
Thanks so much for hanging out on the top floor. If today's episode gave you something to think about or a little boost, share it with your friends to keep the momentum going. And hey, if you're ready to rise, find your voice, and lead with clarity and confidence, we'd love to connect with you. Reach out at graceandsaltleadership.com to learn how Grace and Salt can support your growth. Remember, you don't have to lead like everyone else, just lead like you. All right, I'll see you next time on the top floor.